Are you ready to become awesomer? Hello everyone, my name is Umar Hamid and welcome to the No Limit Selling Podcast, where we explore mindset, how leaders grow their people, their teams, their organizations, and their revenue. Looking for more? Join us on the Mindset Boosters group. You'll find the link in the show notes. And now, let's get on with the show. Hello everyone. Today I have the privilege of having Eric Jones here, and he is a big enchilada at sales. Finish it for me.
Sales is evolving.
Always. And it's iteration, and it gets better and better. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
So Eric, from your point of view, how is sales evolving in this day and age? Right now, we're kind of sequestered at home. It's COVID times, and pretty soon we'll be hearing our kids tell their kids, "You got it easy. I was growing up in COVID time."
Yeah. I mean, it's changing in a lot of respects, right? I mean, internally, where let's say you're a new hire, and I've been there, where I got hired 2 days before COVID started. So I knew two people out of 800. And so
Right.
ramping ramping your 30, 60, 90 was quite different. You're having one-on-ones over video conferencing, but that's about it. You're really kind of, they want someone that doesn't need a lot of hand-holding, doesn't need a lot of nurturing in their 30, 60, 90 in their ramp, or in their job in general. But in terms of technology, we're using, there's a reason why all these companies are IPOing and blowing up, collaboration companies from Slack to Zoom Info to, Zoom meetings, to video in general. And it's harder to stick out, whether you're prospecting for a sale, whether you're looking for a job, whether you're trying to distinguish your brand in the market. You're having to get creative, and there's a lot of options out there. There's a ton, from the options where it's just plug and play, like a Vidyard or Wistia, Vimeo or something like that, to people that are getting really creative with using their own cameras and getting where the technical aptitude is or more technical aptitude is required.
I sent you out an invitation to be on the podcast using BombBomb, and it was a video of me saying, hey, come on my show. So it just makes it more warmer, and you get a sense of who you're going to be interacting with before you have to actually agree to something. And I'm getting a lot more yeses in my sales endeavors as well as in podcasting because I use video.
Yeah. So how are you using video? I'm interested.
So primarily what I use is probably three ways. I don't know the third way yet, but I'll come up with it by the time I get there. One is a product called BombBomb. And what they do is when you send an email, it embeds a video inside that email. And it shows a little GIF, so there's movement in the email, and I get to basically make my case. And it could be as simple as, "Hey, Eric, my name's Umar, and I help sales teams become more effective. I'm going to help your salespeople increase their sales by 20%. Set up a 15-minute call, and let me show you how I can do it. Click on the link below." Piece of cake.
That's great. And have you noticed it's changed engagement rates at all?
It's gone up significantly because, reading a paragraph or two is different than just clicking on a video and seeing a 30-second video. You also get the demeanor of the person, the tone of voice. Hey, that guy sounds like he knows what he's talking about. I should take a few minutes. Also, the second way is just doing a lot of videos on Vimeo, on YouTube, just sharing ideas with the world at large. And then the third way is I just did a webinar, which is pretty much just a video on 7 ways to overcome anxiety. And people attended, they got to see me, I got to capture the video, so it's something that's evergreen I can use again. So we live in amazing times.
So you have two different things. The anxiety practice, is that something that's...
So the main thing I do is I'm an expert at changing human behavior, and it's very much for salespeople, how do you get them to overcome the fear and pick up the phone? It's all internal belief stuff. And then the other side of the practice is just people coming in saying, hey, I run a company, but it takes me too long to make decisions. And we figure out, you've got this need to be liked. Let's change the beliefs around that. And all of a sudden they can make decisions faster. They always knew, but another part of their psyche was slowing them down, basically saying, but what will they think of you? Shouldn't you give them another 3 months? All that human stuff. Humans haven't changed. Technology has changed. We are still the same. And
Yeah.
Shakespeare should be dead and buried. It's not, because the same kind of stuff that was going on then, Elizabethan times, is going on today. And instead of like people fighting, knights fighting, we've got people dissing each other on Facebook.
Yeah, I always, people ask me what's my go-to sales book, or what are my top 5 sales books, and I say, hey, company culture changes. I mean, look at COVID right now. Technology changes, but psychology doesn't really change that much, or it changes over
At all.
hundreds of years. And so the psychology of sales is those kinds of books are the ones that I try to go after, because that's something that doesn't change, and I get a lot of value from that. So this is interesting because it's podcast hosts,
We're
and
co-hosts. Let's go back and forth.
like I'm asking you. I'm like I feel like I'm on my podcast a little bit, but what are you seeing in terms of engagement? Your podcast where you have a guest, or the ones where you're just by yourself and you're giving some counsels and advising people on how to blah blah
So
blah.
generally more engagement when I do a solo, this is what we're doing,
Oh, really?
but more traction when I have another guest, because a lot of people have a following. Like we had Joan London on the show from Good Morning America fame, and that show's going to go out next week, and she's got a massive following. So that's
Oh,
going to do an uptick on downloads and listenership and reach new audiences.
that's great. And how do you usually distribute or promote afterwards?
So very poorly. So on LinkedIn, the email list, nothing heroic.
Okay, got it. Great. Well, I'm always curious to ask other podcast hosts how they're going about their business. So
So let me ask you, sales is changing. And what's an effective way from your point of view to use video to deepen relationships and close more business?
yeah, so first it starts with, you hear about video, right? And you start hearing that there's more engagement, and that it might be worthwhile to check out, to evaluate, right? That's the first stage.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're an account executive under director of sales, you might need to ask permission to use video, because there's they might not want that to be part
My
of
advice is do not listen to them. You want to do it, do it.
that.
Ask for forgiveness, much better than asking for permission.
That I agree. So let's just say,
Get
they
fired, be proud, go do
yeah,
it.
go ahead with it, right? Down to the options, right? And then there's the vineyards, there's the bombs, there's Vimeo and whatnot, and they do the job, right? And they make it really easy to do. What we bring to the table is a more sophisticated approach with actual professional cameras, where the quality of the video is substantially higher, and so that first impression is, we're counting on that first impression. And what I've experienced in sales, and 16 plus years in sales, is that first impression, that first call, that first email they see, if it resonates, they might delete it. They might delete that voicemail, but if something resonated, maybe that second time they're going to pick up. So it's about first impressions, I think, and noticing the difference of a high quality video. I'm not doing it justice today. I'm just using my Logitech video cam,
Looks
so
pretty good still.
you can't really see the difference too much, but that high quality, that level of quality, and shows a different caliber of professionalism. And I think that as video progressively becomes more of a commodity, you're gonna need these kind of distinguishing traits. It's like cold calling and emailing right now. At one point, email was, you know
The
um,
dominant form of communication.
yeah, it was. brand new, and all you have to do is write an email, and then there's mass emailing, email campaigns, and now you really have to be personalized and really put a lot of thought into how you personalize your emails. And I think that's going to happen with video, and so we're trying to take it to that level where the quality of the video, and also what we do is we teach video etiquette, how to be natural, how to maybe as it relates to what you're teaching, take out some of the anxiety that comes with being on video. Those kinds of things we also add into our package. So we let them know the options available, and we're not necessarily pointing them towards our solution. But if they want to go towards a different solution, still we'll tell them how to set it up, and then what works in terms of engagement, in terms of your mannerisms, your gestures, your presence on the video. So that's what we're really trying to do. And then a level past that is podcasting, right? Podcasting isn't as popular as using video, but it's increasingly. I mean, it's exploding in growth, just as video is. And podcasting is great for a lot of things, right? I mean, for increasing your brand. I mean, and growing your brand online, for networking. You can join as many clubs as you want, but I've learned more from the guests I've had on my shows, from Dale Dupree to John Barrows to Jay McBain from Forrester, than I probably have from reading a sales book or something like that. So it allows you to extend your network, to learn from the greatest, get those insight gems. And if you're within a company and you're doing a podcast, become a thought leader within your company, and to be known as a resource that people can go to if they have questions about any part of sales acumen.
Yeah, podcasting has been going on for a while, is exploded. And if you want to open the door to talk with a hard to reach executive, inviting them to a podcast is probably the easiest way to do it.
Yeah. I'm 12. I haven't been turned down yet.
And so it's good there. And the trick needs to be is you need to have the person you're interviewing, at least in my opinion, that if you can help them get an insight into their thoughts, then you make a friend, and then you kind of move up in stature pretty quickly. If you're just going to ask the same old questions that they've answered 100 times in the podcast they've done, then it's just like, oh, thank you for the interview. Yeah. But if you help them get an insight, A, it makes interesting podcasting, but 2, it builds relationships.
Exactly. Yeah. And that was part of I think that's part of my niche is I try to ask questions that haven't been asked internet wide, on a search, for at least a couple on each episode. And so if I don't get that,
we started, you asked me what's my favorite color.
I haven't been asked that before. I feel like it was a failed episode.
Right. Brilliant. I was just teasing. I said, before our episode, you asked me what my favorite color was. I'd never been asked that. That was amazing. So what do you do with the podcast? You do the podcast. How do you leverage that podcast to build a bigger audience? How are you doing that?
Yeah. So what I'll do is I've currently on LinkedIn, I have a LinkedIn page for my podcast, and I have getting close to 500 followers. I have a blog newsletter I send out, and I also am writing posts on LinkedIn to promote it. But it's an area where I could probably use a lot of growth in promoting it to get to the next level. I use a platform called Anchor that distributes the podcast to eight different platforms, and that certainly helps. It got me five-star reviews on Apple Podcasts, but I probably could use a lot of help in that area.
Brilliant. Certainly, depending on who you're interviewing, it could be press worthy. So a press release might come out, depending on who it is. Like the Joan London thing, we'll probably do a press release. Not that they care about us, but they care about her, and we're in there, and it gets carried. It helps. everybody that I do a podcast with, I was interviewed twice today, is I send them an invitation. You know, anytime you're releasing any episode, let me know. I'll send it out on my network as well. And if we kind of stay together, we've
Yeah,
got the ability to go out to hundreds of thousands of people, all of us. So it's very much a cooperative landscape if you want it to be.
it really is, and I think that's part of why I get a lot of yeses. Um, my podcast is called Sales Intersection, and it's an intersection of sales and impact, sales and meaning, money and meaning, or money and impact. And so my first season is on the spectrum, more sales, less meaning, and my second season is going to be more meaning, less sales, and more underrepresented people, women, older women, older people. Um, you know, the people from the LGBT community, so on and so forth. And anyway, I think telling people my story and telling people that I legitimately started a podcast because I wanted to talk about sales and meaning, not doing a podcast for sales and meaning so I could boost revenue in the fourth quarter 22%, but that was the sole reason. That by itself is unique, and that's why I got the story in Yahoo and Digital Journal. And people have been there. They've been there in the very beginning when they were starting something on their own, and they can empathize with you, and they'll give you a shot.
Absolutely. Right now, if you were trying to get to the senior VP at Adobe, getting a meeting with that person, how would you orchestrate that so our listeners can go, not that VP, but I got another VP that can use that strategy to get a face to face over Zoom or whatever? So, what would be your strategy? How would you recommend landing that meeting?
Strategy would be very similar as it would be if I was selling for a company. CEO of Adobe, I would probably listen to three of his podcasts. I would look at his last 10 Twitter posts. I would look at his last 10 articles, comments on LinkedIn. I would use my network to see if anyone knows him or her. And I would try to get to what is his focus right now. What are they trying to accomplish? Are they going after maybe a certain client, or maybe they're trying to be go after more social causes, something to that effect. So I would position my podcast in such a way that would attract what they're looking for, and promote what they're trying to go after, and then try to attract fans, and write some posts that would get people that are interested in that to attend.
Napoleon Bonaparte was one of the greatest generals in history, and one of the things he would do better than anyone else is study all the maps, know the terrain, go out on the forefront where the battle was. Knowing the lay of the land was critical to him winning his battles. And kind of that's what you described is like, hey, if you've got a target in mind, figure out what they've been doing, what podcasts, what Twitter, what LinkedIn, and the better you know them, the more relevant you can be. So words to live by is you just can't wing it. If you want to be a professional salesperson and land those appointments, you need to put in the work. And the trick is not to go after 10,000 people and hoping the best. It's like go after 20 that could actually make your year if any one of them came on
Yeah.
board.
Just so you know, after this podcast, I'm going to write down, this was the day I was compared to Napoleon.
You are short, and that was what I was going for. No, I can't see how tall you are. Just kidding. Thank you so much for being on the show today. Before we part, on video, what would be the three pieces of advice you'd give people when they're looking for the equipment they need to be an effective salesperson in this day and age?
Well, I would branch out. I would join a lot of different communities. A lot of times in corporate environment or even startups, you get siloed to where you're just doing the work that's needed, that's being asked for by your boss. You're trying to get your 50 dials in, or you're trying to hit your number by the end of the quarter. But it's important to, I mean, the spectrum of guests I've had on season one, and their insights and their background and the way they look at sales. It's so different. I learned so many different things. So if you can do a podcast and try to reach out to a variety of people, but two, I would join a lot of organizations. Right now, I'm part of a community called Quad Meets, and by no means am I, a founder or associated with it in any other way than being a member. And it randomly picks 4 people every meeting to meet in a Zoom meeting for 30 minutes, and
I
you get
love
to
it.
meet each other and you network, and maybe you can help each other, maybe you won't, but you learn from each other, right? And so I think, and the third one would be is read as much as you can. Professional development is the theme here with all 3, but read as many of the sales books as you can. I don't subscribe to one particular sales methodology. I think that I know most of them, but it's important to know when to pivot, when to use which one, and where.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for being on the show. It was a joy having you on.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Amar. And when will, just so I know, when will this be airing, or how are you going to be distributing this?
So it's going to go on Podbean probably sometime in February, but we will give you a heads up before it goes out.
Okay, fantastic. Well, I've enjoyed the conversation, and I'm gonna check out Bomb Bomb. That sounds like a great idea for my email efforts.
Brilliant. If you enjoyed this episode, please go to iTunes and leave a 5-star rating. And if you're looking for more tools, go to my website at nolimitselling.com. I've got a free mind training course there that's going to teach you some insights from the world of neuro-linguistic programming, and that is the fastest way to get better results.